Days passed one after another while Khaled continued working with Yamen. He would read the book several times a day, comparing what it said about the people of Zikola with what he had written in his own notes. He tried asking many who had traveled to the western region before, hoping one of them might know the secret of that carved head. He knew that going there was a risk, and might not even be what the book's author intended, but he had no other choice. On the 6th day, he was waiting by the lake for Aseel and her carriage when he saw Yamen approaching from afar, dressed in new clothes, a short, ornate blue robe over loose trousers. He walked proudly in his outfit, brushing his sleeves every few moments. Khaled laughed when he saw him. Yamen immediately asked, "Don't I look handsome in these clothes?" Khaled laughed. "Your clothes are far newer than mine." Yamen chuckled. "Well, I get paid for my work. You only work so you can travel to Zikola's regions." A moment later, Aseel's carriage arrived. The moment Yamen saw the driver, he whispered to Khaled, "Looks like I won't be driving after all. I'll really be an assistant." Khaled burst out laughing. Then Aseel appeared at the carriage window and called out with a smile, "Come on." Khaled lifted all his belongings, his cloth bundle holding his papers, the book, and a few pieces of stale bread. He got into the carriage with Yamen sitting across from Aseel, who ordered the driver to head toward the western region. The carriage set off with Khaled, Yamen, and Aseel inside. Yamen was staring cheerfully out the window, so much so that it puzzled Aseel. He even leaned out as if wanting the workers outside to see him in his new outfit. Khaled stayed silent, looking out the opposite window. Aseel watched him quietly before she finally asked, "Did you find anything new about the riddle?" He answered, "No, I'm just hoping we're right and that the exit is really there." She fell silent for a moment, then smiled. "You want to leave Zikola as fast as possible. You won't even wait for Zikola Day." Then she asked, "What did the book say about Zikola's history?" He smiled, choosing to answer her in her own dialect. "The author of the book never discovered Zikola's secret either. It seems no one knows the secret of this land. But he did mention how you came to speak Arabic." Aseel asked, "How so?" Khaled flipped quickly through the book and pointed at a page. "It says that some people from my land came here centuries ago, through the Furic Tunnel. They were the ones who taught the people of Zikola Arabic. As for some neighboring areas, they learned the language from those who came from my land, but never actually entered Zikola." Yamen laughed and interrupted, "Well then, we owe you quite a lot." Khaled smiled and continued, "He also says they settled in the northern region." Yamen fell silent for a moment, then laughed again. "All right, maybe we don't owe you that much." Aseel asked, "Did he mention where Zikola is in relation to your world?" He replied, "No, he didn't. What both he and I know is that the path between your land and mine is the Furic Tunnel." He flipped more pages and went on. "He couldn't explain your existence here, nor the deserts and lands, nor the water wells, nor this sky and this sun. He concluded that Zikola is another world altogether. No one knows where it is, except that it lies at the end of the Furic Tunnel. It seems it will remain an eternal secret that no one will ever uncover." The three of them continued talking about the book, and Khaled began reading aloud some of its pages. They were amazed when he read to them about the Furic Tunnel, its remarkable design, how it was lit only on the night of the full moon, and how it was ventilated. Whenever they seemed doubtful of what they heard, he would remind them that he had seen it himself when he passed through it. Time passed as they talked, moving from the book and its mysteries to Hilal, the greedy man who had taken an extra 100 units. They laughed when Khaled told them he had been drunk and remembered nothing he had said to the people around him at the time. Then their conversation shifted to the region they were heading toward. Khaled looked at Yamen and said, "You once told me that the western region has a large market where all of Zikola's agricultural and industrial products are bought and sold." Yamen replied, "Yes, many people go there despite how far it is from our area." Aseel cut in, "But it's closer to the governor's district. We're passing it now." Khaled looked out the window and saw the palaces of the central region. Yamen continued, "It's also close to the southern region, the farming district. It has always been known as the trading ground of Zikola. Prices there are much cheaper than in the other regions, so many of Zikola's people head there." Aseel added, "It's the region of Zikola's merchants. They live there even though life in that area is difficult. Then Yamen continued. And in recent years, it's become a rival to our region in stone brick production. They started using their rocky terrain to make bricks, just like we do. They have many strong workers. My friend Eyad is one of them. Khaled fell silent, then let out a hopeless laugh. My goal at first was to find the book, and I did. Now my goal is to find an unknown head. He leaned back in his seat and added, mocking himself with a touch of sorrow, I'm afraid I'll find that head, only to discover I have to search for something else after it. Aseel smiled. Even if that happens, you'll still find everything you're looking for. You're strong, you're smart, you're different from the others, Khaled. You're the one who found your book. You're the one who solved its riddle, and you're the one who will get yourself out of here. Yamen smiled silently, watching the two of them as quiet settled over the carriage. The sun set, darkness filled the sky, and Yamen leaned back with his eyes closed, drifting into sleep. Aseel, however, kept her eyes fixed on the sky until she suddenly called out to Khaled. Look over there, she pointed upward. It's Aseel. Khaled looked at the sky, at the shining star, then looked at her. I consider it a good sign, just like your presence, Aseel. Her face flushed as it always did, and she smiled. She kept her eyes on the star while Khaled watched her, smiling whenever he saw her tilt her head or move her eyes to keep the star in sight as the carriage moved. Then he laughed when he looked at Yamen, who had slipped down between the two seats, completely lost in sleep. When he glanced out the window again, he noticed distant flames and knew they were nearing the region they were heading to. The carriage reached the outskirts of the western region, and Khaled immediately woke Yamen. Yamen opened his eyes with a grin when he found himself sliding down inside the carriage. He quickly straightened himself and his clothes. Aseel spoke. We'll go now to a place where we can stay for the night. There is a residence here reserved for the governor Eyyad's physician, which is me, and for my two assistants, which are you both. Yamen smiled. Great. I was afraid I'd end up sleeping on the side of the road like our friend here always does. Khaled smiled and Aseel continued. We'll start our work in the morning. After noon, I won't need either of you, so you can go look for the exit of that tunnel. The carriage stopped in front of a house. The three of them got out, Aseel leading, followed by Khaled, then Yamen carrying all the bags, including Khaled's belongings. They headed inside where someone was waiting to receive them. The next morning, Khaled woke up quickly and shook Yamen awake. They went with Aseel to her work, accompanied by the man who had welcomed them the night before. They moved from house to house as Aseel examined the patients. Whenever someone needed a bandage, she left Khaled to wrap it, while Yamen did nothing except carry the bags and show off his new clothes. Whenever a girl passed by, he would set the bags down, brush off his sleeves until she walked past, then pick the bags up again. Khaled watched him and laughed. Aseel, on the other hand, was furious, but her anger would fade each time she saw Khaled laughing. They kept walking through the streets of that region, and Khaled looked at the houses. Many of them showed signs of wealth, though not like the palaces of the central region. He knew these were the homes of Zikola's merchants, wealthy people. Most of the houses were 2 stories high, built with craftful architectural design, thick stone walls, and distinctive carvings on their facades and windows. They were not as old as the buildings of the eastern region. Hours passed until Aseel told them she would continue treating the women alone, and that it was time for them to leave and pursue their goal. Khaled and Yamen left immediately. Yamen got rid of his new clothes and changed into the old outfit he had brought with him. Together they walked through the streets of the western region, searching for anything, looking for that mysterious head whose nature they still didn't know. Soon they reached a vast area crowded with people, men and women of Zikola. Yamen told Khaled that this was Zikola's great market. As they got closer, Khaled saw countless agricultural goods, fruits, and vegetables. Some he recognized, others he had never seen before, surrounded by crowds of people. There were also the goods crafted by the people of Zikola, new clothes, robes, shirts, and neatly displayed dresses forming a beautiful array of colors. Sellers called out their prices in units, and the whole place was filled with noise and movement. Khaled and Yamen struggled to walk through the crowd. Khaled raised his voice so Yamen could hear him. How do people buy things here? Aren't they afraid for their wealth? Yamen shouted back. Prices here aren't as high as in other regions, like I told you. People buy these products and then take them to the wealthier regions to sell them at higher prices. That's how they make more profit. He added, and there are goods, like agricultural ones, we simply can't live without, and the merchants know very well how to profit from them. They kept walking through the crowd, Khaled's eyes scanning everything, searching for that head. He asked everyone they met about any statue or famous carving in the region, any head they might know, but everyone denied the existence of statues or any kind of sculpted head in the area. Exhausted, the two sat beside one of the houses, drinking from the water Yamen had brought. Then Yamen said, trying to encourage him, We'll find it. I feel we're going to find it, Khaled. Before Khaled could reply, Yamen suddenly shouted towards someone in the distance, Eyad! He ran to him, hugged him tightly, exchanged a few words, then brought him over to Khaled. This is Khaled, the one you met in the temple on Zikola Day. Remember him? Eyad smiled. The stranger? Yes, I remember. Have you two become friends? Yamen laughed, but Khaled jumped straight to his question. Eyad, this region is rocky, isn't it? Eyad answered, Yes, it's one of the roughest areas in Zikola. The ground here is extremely hard and unfit for farming. Khaled interrupted, Are there any statues here? I'm looking for a head, any kind of head. Eyad paused, thinking. No, I've lived here for a long time and there are no carved heads of any kind. You must be looking in the wrong place. Khaled fell silent, anxiety showing on his face. But the book says to carve in rock and to be like the sun. The closest place that fits the riddle is the western region. Yamen looked at Eyad. Please, Eyad, you're smart. Think with us. Khaled is my friend and I want him to get what he's looking for. Eyad smiled, drank from Yamen's water, then said to Khaled, I'd like to help you, but honestly, I don't understand anything about what you're saying from that book. You don't have any solid clue except the carving in rock. Yes, this region is known for its rocky ground. Some even say that the rocky nature of this land is what determined where Zikola's wall was built. He had barely finished speaking when the three of them were startled by Aseel arriving in a rush, breathless, holding her hand to her chest as if she had run all the way. Sweat covered her face as she looked at Khaled and said, Khaled, I found the head you're looking for. Khaled's heart pounded violently, and so did Yamen's and Ayad's. He immediately asked her, Where? She grabbed his hand. Come on. Then she dashed forward, her hand locked in his, with Yamen and Eyad right behind them. They hurried through the crowded marketplace, bumping into many people along the way. Whenever someone cursed at them, they simply smiled and kept running. Khaled kept asking Aseel about the head, but she only smiled and told him to wait a little longer. They continued weaving through the masses, their hands still intertwined, parting only when someone squeezed between them, only to reconnect again the moment the path cleared. Yamen and Eyad rushed close behind, pushing aside anyone in their way, unwilling to lose sight of Khaled or Aseel. Eventually, they exited the market into a quieter street and sped toward its end, Aseel still leading them silently, refusing to speak. Khaled followed, his heart racing, his breath sharp. They finally reached the western edge of the western district. Only a few houses stood there, most far less luxurious than the others in the area, and beyond them loomed the Wall of Zikola, 5 stories high. Aseel stopped, trying to catch her breath. Then she pointed ahead. Look here. Khaled looked where she pointed, and so did Yamen and Eyad. They searched for a head, but found nothing. Khaled asked, Where? Aseel smiled, still breathless. It's not a statue as we all imagined. It's a completely different kind of head. He stared again, confused, unable to understand what she meant, until she said, Khaled, look at the Wall of Zikola itself. The three of them stared at the massive wall, about 100 meters away. Khaled asked, You're thinking what I'm thinking? She smiled. Yes. Then she continued, Look at the wall here, its path, how it was designed. Khaled studied it carefully as she went on. I couldn't sleep last night. I read your book again and reconsidered every word. I tried to use my mind to locate the head, but nothing made sense, Until fate had me treat an old sick woman today after you two left. She told me purely by chance that the rocky nature of this area influenced how the wall was built, something the elders used to say. That's when I started thinking again. Eyad cut in. Yes, I was going to tell you that the western land is shaped like a triangle surrounded by the wall. If only the doctor had not interrupted us. Aseel continued. Yes, Khaled. This is the only area where the wall forms two sides of a triangle, meeting at an obtuse angle. She paused, then added, Look at that angle, Khaled, where the two massive sides meet. From inside, it looks like just an angle, but from the outside, it's the head, the triangle's head. Yamen suddenly shouted as he ran toward the wall. Look! The three followed. He pointed at a small carving etched into the stone at that corner. The picture. I've seen this picture before. It looks exactly like the one of that wealthy man in the vault. I wanted to photograph it, but then the vault collapsed. Yamen smiled. This proves Aseel is right. Khaled's heart thumped hard. He spoke calmly. Yes, I think she is. This carving confirms it. The book's author must have carved it himself, knowing only someone who passed through Furik's tunnel, someone who worked tirelessly to solve the riddle, would recognize it. But I never imagined the head would be the head of a triangle, made by Zikola's wall itself. He looked at Aseel. Thank you for using your mind, and for solving a riddle I could never have solved alone. She asked softly, Khaled, then why don't you look happy that we found the head? He hesitated, then answered, The riddle says the door is directly in front of the head. He continued, which means the entrance to the tunnel lies outside this wall. They all fell silent, realizing none of them had considered that. Their joy lingered only until Eyad spoke. We need to leave this area now. The wall guards don't tolerate anyone hanging around here. They patrol constantly. The four stepped away from the wall, stopping once they were about 100 meters from it. Yamen asked, If the entrance is outside Zikola, then why did the book's author say that anyone wishing to return home must pass through Zikola first? Aseel replied, When I read the book yesterday, he mentioned that the wall hadn't been fully completed at the time, 2 centuries ago. She gestured toward the wall. Maybe this section was the last to be built. It took a long time according to the old woman I treated. Then she looked at Khaled. This means that when the author said he left your country and later returned here, he reached the exit before the wall was completed. That made the riddle even more complex, but he left that carving as a strong clue. She fell silent. Khaled spoke next, despair on his face. That means I have to wait until Zikola Day. And only then can I leave, if I manage to reach the tunnel entrance from outside the wall. Eyad shook his head. That's impossible, my friend. What? Khaled asked tensely. Eyad explained. The land inside Zikola is leveled, flattened over centuries. But beyond the wall, everything changes. Zikola is at the far west of our world. No countries lie west of it, or north or south. All lands are east of Zikola. No one has ever passed beside it. They say the land outside is a nightmare of mountains, dunes, and sinking sands. Anyone who ventures there dies. No one has ever survived trying. He sat down heavily. That's why Zikola fears no attack except from the east, and that side is protected by the wall. Having the head outside means only one thing. You are destined to remain here forever. Anger and sorrow clouded Khaled's face. He looked at Aseel. I told you. Every time I solve part of the riddle, I end up going in circles. A circle with no end. He sat down, burying his head in his hands. There must be a way. There has to be. Yamen mirrored him, muttering, The door is in front of the head. Even Aseel paced anxiously, whispering to herself, Think, Aseel. Keep thinking. Then Khaled suddenly stood and pointed at the wall. I have to get out. I won't stay here knowing my way home is behind that wall. And the book says, carve into the stone. That can only mean one thing. Aseel asked, What? That I carve into the wall itself and reach the tunnel through it. Eyad stared at him. You want to carve into the wall itself? Make your egg. Khaled answered quietly. Yes. Is there another solution? Eyad shook his head. That isn't a solution. If you even try, you won't live to see Zikola Day. You'll be killed instantly. Look at them. He pointed at 2 columns of guards, armored, swords in hand. They protect the wall. You can steal, kill, do whatever you want, except one thing. Yamen cut in. Damage the wall. Eyad continued. Your friend might have carved that image and been killed for it. Aseel added, Khaled, the wall is the most sacred symbol here. Even if the guards let you touch it, the people wouldn't. They believe the wall is the source of Zikola's power. They'd never allow anyone near it. What you're thinking is impossible. Khaled was silent for a moment, then shouted, Then what's the solution? Would you stop me if I tried? Silence again. Then Aseel smiled gently. I won't stop you, Khaled. Yamen smiled too. Nor will I, but the guards exist for this exact purpose. You can't bribe them. You can't avoid them. Khaled looked at Aseel. How long are you staying here? I have plenty of work in this district, she said. I can stay as long as I want. What about you? I'm not going back to the Eastern District. I'll stay here until I find a way out. Yamen added, I can find work here too. Staying close to you and to Eyad is enough for me. Aseel finally said, We should head back to the house before the guards grow suspicious. We'll think more clearly after we eat. Khaled nodded. All right. Khaled, Yamen, and Aseel returned to their assigned lodging, accompanied by Eyad. They ate the meal their host had prepared, and when they finished, they sat down to think again. Khaled spoke in despair. Reaching the underground chamber from outside Zikola is impossible, and reaching it through Zikola's wall is impossible. He let out a heavy sigh and fell silent. Aseel smiled and said, You'll find a way, Khaled. You will. Your efforts won't go to waste. Yamen smiled as well. Yes, Khaled, you'll find it. You've already come such a long way. There must be a solution. He turned to Eyad. My friend, I've known since we were young how good you are at finding answers. Think with us. Khaled added, Think with us, Eyad. If you find the solution, I'll give you back whatever intelligence you spend on figuring it out. Eyad smiled. All right, I'll think it through. I won't leave you until I find you an answer. They fell silent again, each looking at the others with nothing left to say. Aseel kept her eyes on Khaled, afraid to admit she had no idea what to propose, fearing that would deepen his despair. Yamen tapped his head and urged her, Think. Then Eyad stood up. I need to go. Yamen asked in surprise, Where are you going? The sun is almost down, Eyad replied. I'll leave you for now and come back later. He looked at Khaled. I hope when I return, I'll find that you've reached your door. He left, and the three remained just as they were, thinking while time slipped by. Khaled flipped through his book, hoping to find anything that could lead him to his chamber, but nothing helped. Darkness settled in, and the Western District lit its homes with fire. Khaled looked at Aseel. You should go to your room now. You need some rest. He turned to Yamen. You too, Yamen. Get some sleep. Exhausting ourselves won't help. We've done enough for today. We'll rest now and continue tomorrow. Aseel asked, And you? Will you rest? Khaled smiled. No, I'll keep thinking. I want to be able to close my eyes while my head is searching for a way out. This is my fate, Aseel. She smiled softly. Very well. Then I'll stay and think with you. But he looked at her. I don't want to wear you out anymore today. I know you want to help, but you have work tomorrow. You can't neglect it. You have to remain Zikola's finest physician. Aseel smiled and was about to head to her room when Eyad walked back in. Yamen immediately asked, Did you find a solution? Eyad asked them to sit, then looked at Khaled. When I left here, I went back to where we were, near Zikola's wall. He paused, then continued. I've found only 3 options for you. They leaned toward him, eager. He went on. The first option is to stay in Zikola for the rest of your life. The second is to wait for the day of Zikola, walk toward your fate and try to reach the door of your chamber. And that would mean your death as well.